Hello everyone, welcome to Keen Ear, and for this video I want to push the subject of recorded music to one side for this video and instead focus on a live music for a change. And I guess this video stems from the fact that I, like a lot of people really, we've sort of missed live music. Live music for a while at least, things are starting to get back into some degree of normality, but you know, gigs were very much off the menu for quite a while. I did manage to actually see my first gig a few weeks ago now, first in over a year. I saw there the Blue Town, so it was kind of good to kind of finally get back into the rhythm of things. But as a regular uh, gig goer as it was, I was really bitten by the gig bug, particularly 2018, 2019. It really did feel like the emergency brakes had been sort of slammed on, and barely a week would go by without me going to see at least one live performance. And my typical routine, particularly of a weekend. I work weekends, and I'd work in Liverpool, pretty near to the city centre. And after my shift had finished, I'd go into the staff room, get changed, and head out to some venue out somewhere, and see where the sort of night takes me. Or sometimes I'd head over to Manchester maybe. So yeah, it was sort of a real kaleidoscope of different experiences and sights and sounds and smells and everything. And kind of looking back on it now, it almost feels like I was kind of taking advantage of the situation while the going was good, sort of thing. Obviously, I had no idea that lockdowns and things were going to start to hit, but I kind of get that impression almost that it was like it was a good thing that I did. I did take advantage of it because even now, even at this point in time, with everything that's happened, it's still not like what it was, and maybe it'll take a long time. Maybe we'll to get back. Maybe we never will. Who knows exactly what's changed. It's been had such a devastating effect on live music. The lockdowns and everything like that. And it affected me. As a non-musician, it affected me quite a bit. So I can only kind of imagine how much it's affected musicians and how it's affected people who work in the live music industry. With their for financial reasons. That has no real effect on me. I don't work in that industry, but it still had an effect on me. As part of my enjoyment, I suppose, and something that I enjoy doing. So that's obviously something much worse for them. But yeah, it was just like it was just so sad, going past venues that I like going to and seeing them boarded up and things like that. I was like, what the hell's going on? It's just so sad to see. It's seen somewhere that only a few months ago I'd be, inside and having a good time, and now it's, who knows, the owners have sold up and might never reopen again. So yeah, strange times, quite tragic times as well, but it's just the way things have gone, unfortunately. So really, in this video, just to brighten the mood a bit, really, I'm gonna go through some of the more notable acts that I've seen. The big boys really that I've seen. Obviously, I can't go through all the acts I've seen 'cause I'll be here for like 3 hours talking about these groups largely that most people have never heard of. But I think I will make a video soon focusing on smaller acts. But for this video, I'm going to be focusing on the big boys, just three in total. And the first one I'm going to be talking about is Alice Cooper. So Alice Cooper in Manchester. I've got the date here, Friday the 4th of October 2019, and that's where these gigs are going to be coming from. 2018, 2019, and yeah, it was fantastic seeing Alice Cooper. Absolutely amazing. It was sort of a gig that I knew I was going to enjoy it. I knew that it was going to be something that I was going to definitely have fun with, but it kind of blew all expectations that I had. It really was. It was pretty much one of the most entertaining things, not only that I've ever seen, sort of at a gig. It was one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen ever. It was just you can just see the decades and decades of of experience that Alice Cooper has had, with touring and everything, and tweaking the show and taking things out which maybe don't work quite so well and adding things that do. And you just got it now. Where it's just perfect. It really is. It's almost like not like a gig. It's almost like a sort of a horror rock opera in a way. It's just so amazing. With puppets and all kinds of craziness going on. He gets his head cut off in a big guillotine at one point. And it's just amazing. It really is, and I highly urge anybody who enjoys fun and entertainment and horror and has any kind of interest in any of that good stuff. Check out Alice Cooper even if you get like half opportunity, you got to kind of take it. If he's playing anywhere near where you live, and it's possible for you to get there, and you can get your hands on tickets and everything like that, definitely 100% go and see Alice Cooper. Particularly if you've never seen him before, because the fact is, the guy's not getting any younger, like no one is. So who knows how long he can be around for, and it's just he's still relatively in good shape and everything. He's still great to see. So yeah, 100%. You don't have to be a big fan. Just 100% go. Just don't think about it. Pay the money and get down to see Alice Cooper. Absolutely fantastic. It's the you will not regret it. So we'll move on from Alice Cooper and on to Rolling Stones. Yeah, I managed to see the Stones 2018, and saw them again in Manchester along with Alice Cooper's gig, and yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely fantastic to see them. Kind of couldn't believe my eyes seeing them. It's the first time again. I'd never seen Alice Cooper before that gig, and I've never seen the Stones before this gig, and it was just wonderful to see them. It really was. Just it's just like seeing some of the biggest idols you've ever had just before your eyes. And even though the seats weren't the best, and Mick Jagger was like that big on stage, because I was that far back. But even so, I got to see them. And the thing is with the Stones is their energy. Their energy is absolutely immense. It's just incredible. And I was kind of exhausted just kind of watching them. And these guys, they're old enough to be my grandparents. Let's face it, the Stones are old enough to be many people's grandparents. So it's just incredible. It's like superheroes almost to a certain extent. It just begs belief really. So yeah, it was great seeing them. And the most amazing thing about the Stones is more than any other band really in existence, or indeed that's ever existed really, and I include the Beatles in there as well. The amazing thing with the Stones is it's just the sheer number of tracks, because they've been around for so damn long. They've got hundreds and hundreds of tracks. They were playing for hours, and they could have played for twice as long, and they still wouldn't have run out of tracks. They got so many. That's why they got so many compilation albums in existence. They've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of great tracks, and the best singles band who ever existed, effectively. So they can just keep going and going and going, and there's so many bands and so many artists out there. They come on and they play like three of the big hits, and then they start running a bit dry. That's not the Stones. The Stones are like the opposite of that. The Stones would laugh at three songs. The idea of them only having three, they've got hundreds more, and then they got they could play from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight, and they wouldn't run dry of tracks. It's just incredible. And of course, the news recently of Charlie there, passing away, and it really does feel like the end of an era. And the alarm bells were sort of ringing when I heard the news. He wasn't going to be taking part in the tour. They've got a tour planned in September in America, and it was announced that Charlie wasn't going to be taking part, and that's kind of like a really bad sign, because he's always been there. Charlie has always been there from pretty much day one. Back in the early days of the Stones, and for him to not be there, it really meant something's not quite right. And then of course the news came out a few days later that he died. So yeah, it's pretty much the end of an era, really very sad. And it's it kind of makes you wonder what the future is in there is in for the Stones. Are they going to keep going now with a replacement drummer? Are they going to keep recording music? We'll have to wait and see. Really, I guess those decisions haven't been made. Obviously, the likes of Mick and Keith are going to have a big say in what's going to happen. And in terms of recording music and that kind of thing, with them being the main writers and everything. So yeah, and of course you look at Led Zeppelin. When John Bonham died, that was the end of the group. So it's not when the drummer dies, it's not always it can signal the end. Maybe this is going to be the end of the Stones touring days. Maybe they're going to throw in the towel after this. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe they'll keep going with the replacement drummer, but they're never going to be the same. It really is the end of an era, and this is the gig that I went to was one of the last gigs in the UK that the Rolling Stones with Charlie in it. There's ever going to be. So it's kind of such a such a great degree of relief, really, that I managed to kind of go and see them. And when you think about it as well, when Charlie died, he's the first member of the Rolling Stones to die since Brian Jones back in 1969. So it's kind of incredible, really, when you think about, particularly when you think of the lifestyle that Keith has lived, with the drugs. He was a drug addict, let's face it, for many years. So, for him to still be around, but the fact is, as well, you need to remember is that, Charlie was, he was 80. How long, it's kind of a miracle he survived till he was 70. He was 65 or 60. The fact that, he was 80, how long can you expect somebody to keep playing, playing the drums in a rock band? It's all the touring and traveling and everything, that's kind of exhaust me, and I'm nowhere near that age. So yeah, it's kind of the end of an era, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Stones. Hopefully, we can kind of come to some sort of beneficial sort of standpoint with it. We all kind of, whatever decision they kind of make, I guess, is the right decision, I suppose, whether they stop or they carry on, or they get a replacement drummer, or they quit touring and just think about recording maybe, or quit altogether. We'll have to wait and see. But it's for the first time since in a long time, really. I guess since Bill Wyman left, maybe, and the days when Mick and Keith were at each other's throats in the 80s. That there's maybe a degree of you know of turbulence, for the Rolling Stones. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, it was fantastic seeing them, and it was something I'll never forget. It was just fantastic to see them. The energy, the energy was just incredible to see. It just I've seen bands half their age sort of wilt and start sweating and huffing and puffing after 20 minutes, and there's these guys 3 hours in, and I even saw well, not maybe not 3 hours, but hours in, and they're still kind of going strong. It's kind of incredible, really. I even saw Keith running around the stage, and I thought, how the hell can Keith run? It's just I just don't understand how that's possible. He smokes like a million cigarettes a day, and here he is running around after with a big heavy guitar as well. People forget how heavy guitars are, and he's running around on stage with one. Kind of incredible. But anyway, that's the Rolling Stones. Move on from the Rolling Stones to Paul McCartney. Same year, saw the Stones. I saw Paul. So it's the closest I'm ever going to get to living in the 60s, seeing the Stones and the Beatles, I guess. And I guess this as well is the closest I'm ever going to get to my all-time greatest wish if I had three wishes, one of them would be to see the Beatles perform live in the Cavern Club, in the early 60s. Maybe their last gig or whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as I get to see them with Ringo. When Ringo was in the group, so 62 until their last Cavern Club performance. But yeah, this is like the closest I'm probably ever going to get. Paul McCartney live in Liverpool, and yeah, it was brilliant to see him. It was a once in a lifetime thing, I suppose, to see him, and maybe again, maybe I'll never get to see him again. Who knows what's around the corner? Nothing's guaranteed, as we all know. So yeah, it was fantastic to see Paul McCartney, and it was one of the most nerve-wracking things ever to get the tickets because I really, really wanted tickets, but I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to get them on the secondary market because they'd be too expensive. So I had one roll of the dice really, and I had my laptop all set up. I had my phone as well. I had everything. I had an internet connection all set up, just to leave no option, no chance or little chance, should I say, that things will go wrong. I tried to, give myself the best possible options to kind of get my hands on the tickets, and luckily I did, and it was a huge, huge relief to get tickets. And I was looking at how much they were going for a few days before the gig, and they were going for astronomically ridiculous. So I could have bought a house. Well, maybe not a house, but I could have made a huge return on probably maybe the best investment ever was buying tickets for this and maybe selling them on. But I didn't. I kept hold of them, and and I went to the gig, and it was fantastic. So I'm in the Echo Arena, and yeah, it was just you didn't really have to do anything. You could have just come on stage and just waved to the crowd. As far as I'm concerned, that would have been fine. But the fact he came on stage and was doing his routine, and he was incredibly funny as well. Paul, he was in between tracks, and he's got a ton of tracks as well, just as the Stones have got a ton of tracks. As I was talking about before, and he could have gone on for another 3 hours. He didn't sing yesterday, which he could have done easily. And there was a load of other songs that he could have done. He didn't do the Long and Winding Road, which I'm eternally grateful for Paul for not subjecting us to that. But that was definitely one of the highlights, him not singing that song. But yeah, it was just a great night and something I'll never. I got him to he performed a Helter Skelter, so which is perfect, really. That that he could have just come on stage, not Helter Skelter, and walked off, and I'd have been perfectly happy. He could have just come on stage, waved, and come off, and I'd have been perfectly happy. So yeah, it's just great to see Paul. And in this particular year as well, I was talking about the Cavern Club. He did actually perform at the Cavern Club this particular year. It was like one of these secret gigs that he had planned, and I actually knew some people who did actually manage to get to that. And I believe the story goes that a lot of people waiting outside the Cavern Club, news had kind of broke that had leaked out somewhere that he was going to be playing there, so they were waiting outside, for hours and hours. And then he found out that the tickets weren't actually being sold at the Cavern Club; they were being sold elsewhere. So a load of people had to run across town to get tickets, and some of them obviously didn't make it. So yeah, that was a bit of a kick in the teeth. I'm glad that I sort of somewhat stayed out of it. I knew that my chances were pretty. I think I was working as well. I couldn't get away from work, and I knew my chances were pretty slim anyway. So, and I think I did have tickets at that time, so I was pretty content. But I was kind of caught up in her as well to some degree. Although I didn't actually go to the Cavern Club or anything like that, but I knew some people who did, and he was also doing this other gig as well, where he'd arrive at a random pub in Liverpool, and there was some very, very lucky people indeed who were just sitting in there one afternoon for a quiet drink, and then all of a sudden Paul McCartney shows up and he starts playing music, and that's kind of a dream scenario in many ways. But yeah, some people actually got to experience. I bet that's definitely like a dream come true. But yeah, that was essentially part of his promotion. Really, he had a new album out at the time, Egypt Station, I believe, and yeah, that was just promotion for that, really. But he knows how to promote Paul. That's gets attention in the best possible sense in a way, and it's a nice way of doing it as well. It shows that he's a nice guy, and he's willing to do these things that think beyond the box, and kind of think outside the box, should I say. And yeah, it was just really great seeing him. He's very funny as well, incredibly funny guy. Between songs, he would be just like almost like a stand-up comedian. He's just really funny. He'd be reading, people be holding up signs and things. They'd be reading them out, and all kinds. He's just a really funny guy. Still very, very clever. Still very, very astute and everything like that. Still very tuned in. And again, considering his age, it's kind of amazing, really. So yeah, I got to see Paul McCartney in Liverpool still. it still doesn't feel like it actually happened. It really doesn't. It's almost like it was somebody else. But yeah, so anyway, I think that's it for this video. 20 minutes in, I think we'll wrap her up. So I was thinking of following this video up soon anyway by talking about less well-known groups than Paul McCartney and the Rolling Stones. So basically every group in existence almost. But yeah, some smaller groups that I'd like to basically just hopefully turn at least one person onto, or just point in the direction of them, and hopefully somebody appreciates them as well. But that's for another video. So thanks for watching this, everyone, and yeah, let me know any sort of big acts that you've managed to see. I know there's I get talking to people who go to gigs and they tell me who they've seen, and I instantly get jealous. They've seen like Prince and David Bowie and Mark Bolan and all that, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I've seen a few, but maybe not as many as a lot of people have in terms of seeing true legends that are no longer with us. I'd love to meet somebody who's seen Elvis. I guess there's obviously a lot more people in America with Elvis, never really leaving America to tour. But does anyone who's ever seen Elvis and it's not just flying through the back teeth? I'd love to hear what happened with that and that sort of thing, particularly if it was Elvis in like his glory days, maybe in the 50s and that kind of thing. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.